Join me with the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome to the Clermont County Board of Commissioners on this 20th day of November 2019. And we'll start with the regular agenda. Prior to us moving down the agenda, I would like to make a motion to excuse Ed Humphrey this morning from today's meeting. He is on vacation with his family, well deserved. And I've made that motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and second. Roll call, Judy.
Painter,
Yes.
Corcoran.
Yes.
Ed, if you're watching this session, you have been duly excused, and hope you're having a great time. Item number B is approval of regular session minutes of 11/13/2019, our previous meeting. I know we've had them previously to this meeting. We've had a chance to review them and have any comments addressed. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of 11/13/2019?
I'll make the motion.
And I'll second that motion. Roll call, Judy?
Corcoran.
Yes.
Painter.
Yes. Item number C, we have a presentation today from Clermont County Office of Management and Budget. Mary Raines is here, our director, with the proposed annual appropriations calendar for 2020. Mary, the podium is yours.
Thank you, sir. Today, I'm just going to give a brief overview of what we've put together so far as the 2020 appropriation. There are a few things that we need to keep in mind when we do this. The annual appropriation has to balance according to code. Claire, last time you were here, tax budget, we were not under those restrictions. Tax budgets do not need to balance because they're showing a need for the tax budget, tax monies. The appropriations, however, which give the spending authority, are required to balance to the resources available in each fund. In the appropriations, there are 114 funds that have expenses next year. That's down from 120 from last year. And the reason for that is we've excluded the Park District funds. By statute, they are a taxing unit. And since they have a levy now with more revenue, they're beefing up. It's looking more to going based on the statutory requirements that their park commissioners will handle their budgeting process. And that's by Chapter 5705 as well as 1545, which governs the Park District.
Thank you.
I'm going to leave this table up a little while and just kind of go through the next few slides that you have to explain what's in each of these. This is showing the history of the various revenue accounts within the operating piece of general fund. We'll spend more time on general fund than the other funds because that's the largest discretionary fund that you appropriate for. In this, this is listed not by the largest revenue source, but property taxes. People think right off property taxes, what funds the county. Well, that's only 13.8% of the operating funds in general fund. The revenue is projected to grow 1.1% next year from this year. That's about a $97,000 increase. The next one we show there, estimating next year at just over $30 million, is sales tax. That one is 46.6% of the general fund revenues. That is a very volatile revenue source, and it's pushing up there towards being 50%. So that is, the general fund is going to be we're very dependent on the sales tax, and there's been a lot of changes in that recently with removing things at the state level from what sales tax applies to. We lost some money for when they changed the managed care organizations. So it's been up and down, and but we're hoping that it's going to go up another 4% next year. November didn't come in as high as we had hoped, I had hoped. So really hoping that the December for the October sales picks up some of that difference. Licenses and permits is mainly the building department fees, and that's only a small 2.1% of the total general fund revenues. Intergovernmental at 7.2 million estimate next year is up from just under 6 million last year and just over 6 million this year. That has the monies from casino receipts, which are relatively flat. We've got a small 2.5% increase built into that, which is only $62,000 increase. Local government funds is about 1.3 million of that, and that's up about 1.6% according to the State Department of Taxation. The other part that's larger in there and more controversial at this point is the public defender, actually appointed counsel. So it's the public defender and assigned counsel reimbursements. That's up from about $888,000 in 2018, and it'll be up to about $1.1 million this year because the rate of reimbursement increased to 70% in July, and we just received that in October, and it was at 70% of reimbursements. And next year, we estimated at 80% because the first half of the year it's 70% reimbursement, going up to 90% for the second half of the year. Now, the amount that's in here, the 7.2 million, is tied directly to what we budget, what you appropriate in the public defender's office. Because whatever you do there will have a corresponding effect on the revenues. Charges for services is about 15.8%, and the larger of that is the conveyance fees. We're looking for that this year to be just a little bit lower than planned, but then to pick back up next year. And that's strictly tied to the real estate
Transfer of
transactions.
real estate.
Yep. The other things that are in there are the sheriff fees and juvenile detention housing fees, which are each about $39,000, and the clerk of court's passport fees that they've been doing very well on that end. Investment income, you'll see we dropped from 2.5, almost 2.6 million this year down to 1.7, but that's because when the investment income is collected, it's held into an agency fund and then dispersed on a monthly basis. And it was running about 2 months behind. And so this year, the auditor and the treasurer got together and said, we're going to fix that. So we had a 13th month of distributions this year. So it's dropped down to 1.7 next year. That's also taking into account that the feds have dropped the interest rates and the impact that will have on our investment income. The other thing that's in here are the comm center fees that are charged to other entities. So that's about 480,000. Fines and forfeitures, that's coming in from the courts. And you'll see when we hit the expenses side, the courts, the judicial system and criminal justice is a lot larger than the 1.4% that the revenues here reflect. Municipal court fines have leveled off, but they're still down below the 2016 levels. The clerk has sent traffic fine collections to the Attorney General's office last year, I believe, and we've started to see an upkick in the collection of the fines. But overall, there's just a small decrease projected for next year. And then we have other revenues, just miscellaneous things. It's just under 2% of the total. And a large thing there is the title surplus, the auto title fund. The clerk declares a surplus, and it has increased from 400,000 to 500,000 for this year and next. And then what you see in the 2019 includes reimbursements from a water damage claim. So there was quite a bit of revenues in there
So I heard you correct, title revenues actually increased by 100,000?
Yes, it did.
That's Barb Wiedenbein, right?
Correct.
Good job, Barb Wiedenbein.
She's not here.
It's okay, she'll know that was said pretty quick.
She
I would say
will.
within the next 10 minutes.
I'm waiting for the echo coming in.
Okay. This slide is just showing how we're coming up with the target for the appropriations for next year. 2018 operating revenues were $57.6 million, and this year are expected to go up to $60.3 million. The largest increases in that are the sales tax and the investment income. And then for 2020, we're looking at it jumping up to $61.9 million. And again, those sales tax is the big one in there, and then the indigent defense reimbursements is seeing about a $932,000 increase. The current operating appropriations in general fund are $58,428,000. And the target that we're recommending here is $61,870,582, which is the operating revenues. Generally, we've in the past recommended making the target at the actual revenues, so it would have been 2019's level. But because so much of the revenue increase is what's hoped to be a sustained increase level with the indigent defense and so forth, we're recommending that you use that as the starting point or the maximum point. The operating expenses that you'll find in this proposed don't total that amount. That's at $61,439, which leaves $431,000 on the table for you from our meetings that we've had individually with you. You saw that there's over $1 million that are not, of requests that are not in this proposed. And that does not include the extra 200,000 that the Humane Society is seeking for theirs. It's a small piece, but not to that extent. If we back off the healthcare reserve buildup of $138,300, if you'll recall, when we set the rates for health insurance, we put a $300,000 reserve buildup to get that fund back up from the high claims. And general fund runs about 46% of that $300,000. We hope that that's not going to be an ongoing thing, that once that reserve gets built up in a couple of years, that'll back out. So if we want to call that non-operating as well, then you've got about just under $570,000 to address that $1.1 million additional requests. So this is just a different look at the revenue chart. This is just strictly the 2020. It breaks down. You'll see the percentages that we talked about, 46.6% in sales tax and 13.8% in property taxes, charges for services at 15.8%, and then the other smaller revenues. And then in addition to that, we have non-operating revenues coming in, and that the economic development is the 1/3 of the conveyance fee that was dedicated to that, and then just some miscellaneous other non-operating revenues. Here's the part that everybody's waiting for. The proposed expenditures by the program areas. This is where we come up with the $61,439,260 that is in the proposed budget that you have in front of you. Criminal justice and judicial take up 67% of the general fund expenses. And that's where I was saying that the revenues, on the other hand, are a much smaller piece. And these...
Mary, just for a second, those two together, criminal justice and judicial services, is 67%.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yep. And that has the sheriff, jail, probation offices, the courts.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the whole shamil there. General government is about 20%, and that's where you'll find the auditor, treasurer, commissioners, and the various departments underneath the commissioners. Public safety is, the majority of that is the comm center. And then you've got the coroner and building inspection is in there. And the 3.2 for health and human services. And I think I'll take a little more time in this so you can see what's in each of those categories. I'm going to skip miscellaneous. That is mostly sheriff-related, but it also has the cask, which is under municipal court. So that's a very small piece. The Common Pleas Court Probation Office is proposed at $1.7 million. The juvenile detention and probation is at $3 million. Municipal court probation is at just 1.2, and then the sheriff's operations is at $20.3 million. The juvenile detention includes part of the request. It doesn't have 100% of the request, and that's something we discussed that could be changed. Right now, there was an increase, a dollar increase and a percentage increase requested by the judge for the detention workers. The dollar increase is in there. If we switched that to the percentage increase, that would save about $53,300. So for your thought and discussion over the next couple weeks before you come up with a final, that's something you can think about.
So Mary, just for clarification then, so what they're asking for their detention workers is $2 on the hour plus a 6% going into 2020.
Correct.
Correct? And so what's in the budget is the $2 per hour, but they would only get what the rest of the employees in the county would get for
Correct.
2020.
Whatever salary action the board
Okay.
comes to. So if they wanted to split that or, change it and do the 6%, that'd be a $53,000 savings from what's in this. Judicial Services, under BCC is the Court of Appeals, the support for the Prosecutor's Advocate Program at $153,000. The Common Pleas Clerk, General Fund Operation is 1.2. The Municipal Court Clerk is about $1.5 million. And then you can see Common Pleas Court is 1.8, Domestic is 1.2, Juvenile Court is $2.5 million. Probate is just over $500,000. Municipal Court is just over $1 million. And then you've got the prosecutor's offices that are under the judicial. And this excludes the civil division at $2.6 million and the public defenders at $2 million. Now, when you look at this, you might say, public defender indigent defense is underfunded compared to the prosecutor. But what you've got to keep in mind there is about $400,000, give or take, that is embedded in the juvenile municipal court and common pleas court for appointed counsel. So it's also for indigent defense. It just doesn't show up as clearly as the comparison between the prosecutor and the public defender. So they're very close on what's in the recommendation. This recommendation also does not include adoption of the scheduled reimbursement rates that the state has changed their maximum indigent defense reimbursements. We've done a poll. Tom sent out a poll to various county administrators. We've got responses back from about 20 of them. 13 of them have not adopted it. 2 have, and about 3 are considering it or something less than. So most of them are around the same rates that we have. Ours are based on 2011 schedule of reimbursements with $50 out of court, $60 in court, and various maximums. So if we change anything there, if we go with the state maximum reimbursements, it's going to have about $150,000 impact that would have to be added to this budget based on the estimates from the various courts.
That was 50 outside of court and only 60 in court, the representation? Okay, thank you.
And there are various maximums
Right.
attached to each of those. The biggest increase is going to be in juvenile court. because right now, they have a $1,000 maximum regardless, and the new schedule has broken down a lot of the various types of cases. And most of theirs is the abused, neglected, and dependent hearings, and the increase in the maximums have gone up to $1,500 or $2,500 for those. And most of their cases hit the maximum 1,000 right now. So they're expecting it to just pretty much double.
Mary, most of the increases in prosecutor and public defender, that's staffing increases?
It is staffing. In the prosecutor's office, there are 2 additional assistants that have been built into that. And in the public defender, there are actually 3 additional attorneys. 2 of them are part-time that were added this year on a temporary basis, and the recommendation is to allow that to continue. And those are based on number of cases that have been coming through each office. So anything, again, these are what's in the proposed. You've seen the other requests, and those aren't the only requests. Everything that was requested has not been added in here. So the public defender had several more staffing changes that they've asked for.
Thank you.
The general government, you'll see now that we've got the engineer in there. The engineer mostly is not a general fund department, but this year they took over the administration of tax map from where it had been contracted out at the auditor's office before. So that's why you'll see that all of a sudden. Out of the 21 elected officials, the engineer is the only one who is not funded with general fund dollars. So the auditor is at 1.4, tax map is at a 1.5. Board of Commissioners, the big number, $7.8 million. That covers the Commissioner's office, facilities management for all the county buildings, human resources, the mail room that takes care of everybody, public information, planning, the GIS office, ISD, OMB, the Records Center, which takes care of the whole county, risk management, which is the insurance for the whole county, and then some miscellaneous non-departmental funded items, which is tax settlement fees, contributions toward soil and water conservation, the Fair Board, and OSU Extension. And while we mention OSU Extension, right now it's flat. They have asked for $62,000, I believe, more. So that will have to be something that's addressed by the board. And I believe we have a meeting scheduled with them, Tom.
Yes.
Board of Elections is showing here at $1.2 million, and that is the operating. Their actual total budget in this proposal was $1.6 million. We're looking at the bump that we see for the presidential election year of just over $388,000 being non-operating. It just comes every 4 years, and you'll see a big jump. So we've built some in there for ongoing expenses, and then pulled out $388,000 from the balanced piece. So their total is $1.6.
It's very noteworthy when you're talking about budgetary items, just for general information. When we went back and talked about judicial services, I think one of the things that people don't really think about is the fact that regardless of where someone comes from within our county, once they are actually brought to the system or brought to the jail, the county picks up all the costs of that judicial system from that point on.
Right.
The same as, talking about the operating budget for the Board of Elections. The minute that you see more go on in the county, that's more cost is picked up by the county, whether that's a special election or it's a 4-year presidential election. So.
The other items in general government are the civil division of the prosecutor, the county recorder, and the treasurer. You'll see some changes in the treasurer from the lockbox change that just went through. public safety at $4.5 million. Almost 2.7 of that covers the communications center. 1.2 is at the building department, Permit Central. Emergency management and the LAPC at 110. That's local funds that we transfer over to the EMA fund. And then the coroner at just over $500,000. And the comm center is an expensive piece. There's various equipment purchases that are required, and then maintaining them and so forth. So you'll see that that's been an impact. The general fund piece of Health and Human Services, the general funds portion of the TB clinic that we contract with Public Health, the Veteran Services, by statute, they can ask for up to $500,000, and this 1.9 is under that. In fact, they've asked for a reduction this year based on the number of services that they've seen come through. And then in general, the commissioners' non-departmental items, that includes apiary, and this is where we'd put anything that the general fund would have to provide for animal control services, vital statistics, children with medical handicaps is a requirement. That's $0.1 and we just receive a letter that says this is how much you will pay the Public Health, Ohio Department of Health. Mandated shares in here, which is actually a reduction, and then some support to the other DJFS agencies, Family and Children First support, and then just some other things. Economic development, this is a non-operating piece of the county general fund. It's funded from the conveyance fee, it's restricted, and the fund, part of the fund balance that you'll see in general fund is dedicated to economic development. So right now, we're expecting that to be $1.8 million of the fund balance is actually for economic development, going up to 1.9 of the balance for next year. And then here are the other miscellaneous non-operating items. They mostly consist of advances to other funds because of grants that are coming in or other one-time payments out. There's the funding of the HR contracted employee where DJFS pays for that person. There's $3 million in there for transfer to capital, to fund your capital plan next year. $500,000 to provide advance to CTC for the sort of monies that don't come in until December. So they need that money advanced for cash flow purposes. Also, DJFS has $600,000 for their SWORT program that runs actually through the general fund, and that's totally reimbursed with grant monies. And then there's just $153,000 for retirements, vacation payouts, those kind of things that are one time. Here's another way to look at it. People costs are the biggest piece of the county general fund. And when you're looking at the operating budget, it's 76% is people and 24% is everything else. If you throw in the non-operating, because economic development obviously has people in there, it becomes 72% for people and 28% of other expenses. So in summary, we're looking at next year the operating revenues at 61.8. This proposed is 61.4, which left 431,000 for your consideration of what funds you want to include in there. And again, another 138 if we take that health fund reserve is non-operating. Then the non-operating will bring in approximately $3.1 million in revenue. We're going to spend down almost $8 million, so fund balance will go down 4.8, but that's planned fund balance draw. So we're still keeping enough of a reserve to take care of our bond rating and to cover any emergencies that would come up that would delay something.
And the 4.8 spend down is mostly capital.
Mostly capital, yes. Yep. So at the end of this year, we're looking at a $3.9 million fund balance. That includes 5.3 that's in the Budget Stabilization Fund. Again, 1.8 of that belongs to the Economic Development Program. And we had planned to move $3 million into capital this year, but we've deferred that because of the pace that the projects are going. 2020 estimated operating revenues are at 61.9. The estimated operating expenses are 61.4. Non-operating revenues at 3.1 million, non-operating expenses 7.9. And a good piece of that, just under $1.5 million, is the 27th payroll that we're going to see. We had to fund that this year. That happens every 11 years, so that's non-operating. So we're looking at an estimated year-end fund balance of $27.6 million, with 1.9 of that being the economic development and 5.3 of that being the budget stabilization fund. Current cash balance today, yesterday, this week, was about just over $28 million. So with the budget stabilization, that was 33.4. So we expect the rest of November and December to draw the rest of that down. Okay, now you bear with me on this one because I spent most of my time on general fund, and the other funds that you appropriate, as long as they have revenues to support their request, and generally the board has gone with those recommendations. So they're broken up into Health and Human Services, which is the Job and Family Services Department. It's the largest piece there. And they've got income maintenance, child support, children's services, those services. Then there's the developmental disabilities at $22.2 million next year, which is pretty much flat to what it is this year. Community mental health is seeing a bit of an increase up to just under $8.5 million. Senior services, this is the levy proceeds at 5.4. The only increase that's going to be in there is any new construction because it's a voted levy, and that we contract with senior services. So the bulk of that will go there, with the exception of fees that are withheld with the tax settlements. Animal control is the dog and kennel fund. It's at $330,000, which is no change. Juveniles portion of the children's services for their abuse neglect cases is $1 million. And then juvenile has some 4E contracting and some indigent drivers alcohol treatment, and that's another $500,000. And the domestic violence shelter and indigent guardianship is $80,000. It's a separate fund. And then $7,500 is miscellaneous. That's the septic system rehab financing fund. So Health and Human for other funds is $65.8 million. And these, keep in mind, these are the expenses. These are the appropriation end. Environmental and water resources include basically your water resources department, including their construction and their operations, the solid waste management, and then a small piece is the soil and water conservation district, which you'll see is a jump from the $495,000 to $675,000. Their state funding was increased quite a bit with this last budget bill from the state. So they're going to be able to do some more services and keep up with some of the inspections that are required. And then stormwater is another $180,000. Transportation is the engineers MV&G funds, which is just under $12.6 million. It's essentially flat funded there. Community transportation connection is again pretty flat. We have a new director in there and trying to get everything. We're working with him to see that everything's in hand. And then the RIDS, the improvement districts, is $4.5 million. So the transportation piece is 21.8. The county also has 4 internal service funds. That's where we've created these various funds that are for the benefit of the entire county, and the money runs through there, and then at payroll or various times they're charged, whether it's by the direct billing or through payroll, to fund these things. So the health insurance fund is coming in at just under $15 million next year, and that reflects the increase that the benefit credits being charged to the funds. Fleet maintenance is about $1.5 million. We're keeping an eye on that one too. Again, there's a new manager and trying to keep up on the billing and the fuel maintenance there. Telecommunications is our telephone system. It's $942,000. And then the workers' comp fund is just under $1.2 million for a total of $18,580 in the internal service funds. We have seen a reduction in the workers' comp premium. So that's
good.
That's looking good. Now this is the, again, non-general fund piece of general government. And what's under the BCC is the capital, and then we have a sick and vacation liability fund that's in there. And you'll see in 2018 there was the MCO transition payment of $2 million that came in there. The auditor, general government, is the real estate assessment, hotel lodging, and their accounting system that still has some funds left in it. The clerk of court's title office, $3.3 million. Prosecutors and treasurers' delinquent tax accounts are in there. The recorder's technology fund, where I think she reduced it from $4 to $3 or $3.50 per transaction. It goes into there from the general collections. So $20.4 million. Reduction in BCC is due to revisions in the 5-year plan, and I think that still needs to be updated, finalized for next year in total. Economic and community development, the non-general is the CDBG program, Community Development Block Grant Program, at $1.6 million. And that reflects several block grant years. So they're not just in the calendar year, you know, they carry forward. So there's that. And then the economic development investments of 1.2, that's the capital fund. So that's another $3 million. And what you'll see in 2019 is the appropriations the same. Right now it's not planned that any of that will happen this year, so it's deferring the balance to next year. It's not that we have twice as much money. Criminal justice in the non-general, they've got juvenile court. The bulk of that is the reclaim. It's actually down because of changes that took effect July 1st and shifted some staffing requirements to go back into general fund. So they've been doing some shuffling there. The sheriff at just under $3 million reflects the addition of the contracts, the local share and the township share of the contract deputies. And then Common Pleas Court and Municipal Court each have some grants that are funded in there. So that's just $5.7 million in the criminal justice for next year, as opposed to 5.6, so basically again flat. The judicial piece, it is, the largest would be the clerk of municipal court and their computerization funds, and then the law library. Law library is funded with traffic fines, and that is all restricted by code as to how much traffic fines go in there. They also get money by charging for licenses for their legal documents and hard copies. The prosecutor's advocate grant is $181,000. Juvenile court has some computerization funds, some grants, $198,000. Computerization for the clerk of common pleas is at $134,000, and then just some minor computerization special project funds for the other courts for a total of $1.4. Debt funds, we've got some special assessments out there, and the one that's listed as a general obligation, the piece that's left there is really a special assessment for Stolik Olive Branch. So that's just under $900,000. Public safety is the EMA, LEPC, and then the wireless 911. In 2017, we received some reimbursements for some disasters. So FEMA gave us about $459,000. So when we look at that by the program area, there's almost $200,000 for these non-general funds. And when you're looking at this, just in a non-general fund, for example, the criminal justice, you're looking at like 2.9% of the total there. But when you throw general fund in there, that goes up to 12.4%. So the percentages really fluctuate when we add into the county general fund over here. So this is just a recap. The others showed you what was in them. This is just kind of a summary by the groups. And finally, this is showing the draws on the different types of funds. The revenues is in the first column, the proposed appropriations, and then the draws on the various fund balances. In this, the general fund is not just the general fund type is not just general fund. It also includes the sick and vacation liability funds. So the expenses are about $100,000 in there and $112,500 in the revenue end. So that's why if you look back to your general fund, and these numbers are a little bit different, it's because it's a fund type, not the actual fund. Special revenue funds, the draws are, the biggest one is on certificate of title at $1.2 million. The real estate assessment, about $500,000 draw. And Title 4E and juvenile is looking to pull down the balance by about $334,000. Debt service funds are the OPWC debt that the engineer has, and then the special assessments is going to have a small draw on their balance. Capital project funds, the county capital plan is to draw about just under $4.6 million on that to move forward with the projects that have been in the works. And that's the juvenile and possibly the engineer, depending on when that moves forward. Enterprise funds are the water, wastewater, and the construction funds. So the biggest draw on that is the water revenue fund, drawing about $1.8 million, and I believe they're looking into a rate study. And the wastewater, about a $1.7 million draw, and water construction, because of getting some of these projects underway, is going to draw about $1.2 million. Outside agencies include developmental disabilities, mental health, family and children first, soil and water conservation district, and the solid waste district. So DD plans about $1.7 million draw. That's the biggest piece of that right there. The others are small in comparison. Internal service funds are looking to add 531, but that's part of the plan is to replenish the health insurance fund. So in total, there's going to be about a just under $20 million draw on fund balance based on $248,770,000 in revenues and $268,433 in expenses. That concludes the presentation. Again, what has not been addressed, there have been over $3 million of the requests that have been addressed, and about another million or so that need to be considered. There is a salary action built into this, and for each 1% of salary action, general fund is affected by about $253,000. That's it.
Any question?
No, excellent, thank you.
Thanks, Mary.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We'll move on with our agenda to item number D, public participation. We've come to the time to have public participation. At such time, if anybody would like to ask, all you have to do is raise your hand, be called on by the president, and I will clear the way for you to move to the podium. At this time, we don't enter into any type of debate or make comments about that. The comments need to be germane to the meeting. And is there anyone who would like to participate in public participation this morning? You were first. I'll call on you. You may proceed to the podium. Tell us your name and your address.
Hi, everyone. So my name is Jen Fick. I'm here today to represent Best Friends Animal Society. I work in the marketing and events department for the largest animal welfare organization devoted to ending the killing of pets in animal shelters in our nation. It is my understanding that the National Director of Leadership Advancement, Tawny Hammond, sent you all a proposal offering her assistance in reviewing the best course of action for Clermont County. She offered to sign a non-disclosure agreement as well. Ms. Hammond has 30 years of experience in municipal shelter services and possesses a unique skill set appropriate for this situation. Ms. Hammond's offer still stands, of course, and I agreed to read the statement from her. Clermont Animal Care Humane Society is considered one of the best animal services organizations in the nation, but you guys know that already. They received approximately $370,000 last year, but spent $871,000. What they are asking for is the minimum to administer the contract. They will fundraise anything additional beyond the approximately $600,000 necessary. Municipalities cannot do the work of contemporary and relevant animal services alone. Working with nonprofits in the community is paramount and part of the proven best practices in municipal animal services. An elected body is not absolved of their responsibilities to their constituents by pointing to the state code as their guide. The state code outlines what a jurisdiction is responsible for, but does not place any limits on the level of service, ethical responsibility, community needs, nor municipal excellence. This can be seen in other municipal services that the county provides. The bare minimum as required by state code is not what makes a county a safe place for residents and their pets. There is a difference between a no-kill organization and a no-kill community. Stopping the killing of pets is a community ethic. Whoever is awarded the contract must serve the entire county and be funded for the basic needs of that contract. In absence of fair funding, the Commission is signaling to the voters and their constituents that substandard animal services is good enough. I urge you to reconsider your course of action and let Best Friends Animal Society help the county find a solution reflective of your devotion to your constituents. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone next? Please state your name and address for the record, and your comments are limited to 5 minutes.
My name is Nadora Hill. I live at 4577 Helmsdale Court. Hi, in Batavia. I am a 40-year resident of Clermont County. I am here today representing Clermont County Humane Society to show our support for Clermont Animal Care Humane Society and the good work that they are doing for this county. The new mission of Clermont County Humane Society is keeping pets in their homes. Our goal is to connect financially challenged Clermont County pet owners with the community resources that can help them care for their animals, thereby hopefully reducing the number of pets surrendered to the shelter simply because they can no longer care for them. CCHS has already partnered with Clermont Animal Care to provide medical service funding and stands ready to assist with additional enrichment programs that can minimize animal stress, resulting in increased adoptions. Prior to 2015, Clermont County Humane Society managed the animal shelter. I'm here today to provide an historical perspective of animal funding in our county. I served on that board and witnessed firsthand the difficulty we had stretching the dollars provided us through our contract. For many years, we were only offered monies from the Dog and Kennel Fund, derived from the sale of dog and kennel licenses and any court fines assessed for animal-related offenses. Since the volume of licenses sold annually varied, so did our contract fee. The price of dog tags increased twice to boost revenue, but that was unsuccessful in generating additional funds. We were faced with drastically reducing animal services to an unacceptable level or raising additional money under our nonprofit status to keep the shelter operation at the then current level of what the general public came to know and what the commissioners came to expect. It was not uncommon for CCHS to take the full brunt of criticism from the community for what they felt were the lack of services available to them. As well, we received little to no support from county officials explaining to the community why the services were at the level they were. We met many times over the years with county officials being quite transparent with how much money we needed to provide these services. Each month, the commissioners received a report identifying the number of animals received, adopted, and unfortunately euthanized. Even with that information, there was still no talk from their side of increasing animal care funding in an attempt to reduce the euthanasia rate and increase the adoption rate. The financial gap between the contract fee and the operating budget continued to grow and became so great we had no choice but to insist on additional monies beyond what the Dog and Kennel Fund could generate. Again, this was for basic operations. We actually maintained two separate budgets, one specifically for animal control and the 3-day hold, and the other for humane operations. Eventually, the commissioners agreed to a flat service fee, an amount that exceeded the Dog and Kennel Fund. Good roads, good schools, good county services all come at a price. State law requires that all counties provide an animal control operation, including an animal shelter for the 3-day stray dog hold law. It is up to the government as to what that operation looks like. This county is still considered rural by some, and while it's good to have some country roots, our animal shelter should not operate like it is in a backwoods county. Clermont County deserves an operation that is properly funded and managed by professionals, where the animals under their watch are forefront in their mission. Clermont Animal Care is that organization. Our nation as a whole, but in particular some of our bordering county governments, have come to recognize just how much value individuals and families are placing on the well-being of animals, not just their own family pets, but for those that are without homes or are victims of abuse or neglect, and are responding accordingly with appropriate funding. We should all want our county to be as progressive. There has been mention of bringing the operation back in-house with county employees. It may seem like a simple task: feed the animals, clean the cages, pick up stray dogs, and adopt. I can tell you firsthand that aside from it being a 365-day operation, it is stressful to all involved, many times unrewarding, and absolutely unpredictable. Today, Clermont Animal Care, with their strong network of animal advocates and resources, along with the ever-expanding social media opportunities, are willing to take on this task for the county. They are offering to continue to run this program as they have been, but simply asking for fair and appropriate funding to provide the services we as citizens deserve. They have assured you that all other programs will be on their nickel. Not only will we all benefit from improved animal services, we will also benefit from the future programs funded by Clermont Animal Care to help the animal population as a whole at no cost to the county or its citizens. This seems more than fair. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else? Then I'll close the public participation portion of the meeting. Thank you for coming up and participating and sharing your thoughts and comments with us. We'll move on from item D to item number E. Consent agenda. Consent agenda was prepared for us. We've had the opportunity to review that consent agenda previous to this meeting. Are there any items that need to be removed from the consent agenda for further conversation or discussion here at the meeting this morning?
Commissioner Painter, under item 9, under personnel actions, there's a correction. Amy Batista, she is with the Department of Public Safety Services and not Job and Family Services. I'd ask for that correction to be made.
Okay. Anything else?
Sir.
Then I'll ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda with the change in item number 9 for the department to be Clermont County Department of Public Services. Is that correct?
Public Safety Services.
Public
yes.
Safety Services.
Make that motion.
Been moved, and I'll provide a second. Any further conversation or discussion? Roll call, Judy.
Corcoran.
Yes.
Painter.
Yes. And I'll move from item E to item F to the non-consent agenda. Non-consent agenda starts on page 10. It's a recommendation that the Board of County Commissioners adopt a resolution number 182-19, resolving to approve payment to vendors in the total amount of $863,183.46, as set forth in the BCC approval invoice reports for checks dated November the 20th, 2019. BCC directed prepaid invoice report and procurement card transaction report presented by the county auditor on 11/18/2019, and further authorizing the county auditor to issue warrants for the same pursuant to section 319.16 of the Ohio Revised Code. Do I have a motion to pay the bills?
Make the motion.
I'll second that motion. Roll call, Judy.
Corcoran.
Yes.
Mr. Painter.
Yes. Item number 11. Morning, Mr. Dick.
I'm Tim Dick, the Director of Department of Job and Family Services. It's my recommendation, with the concurrence of Thomas J. Eigel, County Administrator, to execute the Memorandum of Understanding for Human Resources Administrator duties by and among the Board of County Commissioners, Clermont County, Ohio, and the Clermont County Department of Job and Family Services for the provision of reimbursement by DJFS to the Board of Clermont County Commissioners for Human Resources Services provided at DJFS by the Human Resource Coordinator position, which is on the table of organization for the BCC, with said Human Resource Coordinator to work solely on issues involving DJFS, and with said reimbursement to be for salary and fringe benefits, as well as any additional miscellaneous expenses, to include but not necessarily limited to memberships, training, and travel as deemed appropriate by DJFS, effective for the period of December 16th, 2019 through December 27th, 2020, pursuant to and in compliance with the terms and conditions specified therein.
Heard the reading of item number 11. Do I have a motion for approval?
Make the motion.
I'll second that motion. Any further conversation or discussion? Roll call, Judy.
Corcoran.
Yes.
Mr. Painter.
Yes. Item number 12.
Item number 12 is also my recommendation. Timothy Dick, Director of Department of Job and Family Services, with the concurrence of Thomas J. Eigel, County Administrator, to execute an agreement for recruiting services by and between the County of Clermont, Ohio, and Trina Farrell, located in Batavia, Ohio, 45103, for the provision of marketing and recruitment of foster families for children that are in the care and custody of the Department of Job and Family Services at a rate of $1,000 for each licensed foster home from those individuals who make application, not initial contact, with the Clermont County Department of Job and Family Services during the terms of this agreement, as well as and up to $10,000 for marketing efforts as specified therein, effective for the period of December the 1st, 2019 through November 30th, 2020, pursuant to and in compliance with the terms and conditions set therein.
You've heard the reading of item number 12. Do I have a motion for approval?
Make the motion.
I'll second that motion. Any further conversation or discussion? Roll call, Judy.
Corcoran.
Yes.
Mr. Painter.
Yes. Item number 13.
Item number 13 is a recommendation of Thomas J. Eigel, County Administrator, to authorize myself, Tim Dick, Director of Department of Job and Family Services, to execute an Ohio Department of Job and Family Services Title 4E Child Placement Agreement and addendum thereto, consisting of amendments number 1 through 4 by and between the County of Clermont, Ohio, and the National Youth Advocate Program located in Columbus, Ohio 43215 for the provision of foster care and placement with baby services for children referred by the Department of Job and Family Services and/or Clermont County Juvenile Court or in their parent, guardian, referred by Department of Job and Family Services or Clermont County Juvenile Court, or in their parent, guardian custody during the calendar year 2020 at the rates identified therein, effective January 1st, 2020 through December 31st, 2020, pursuant to and in compliance with the terms and conditions specified therein.
We've heard the reading of item number 13. Do I have a motion for approval?
Make the motion.
I'll second that motion. Any further conversation or discussion? Roll call, Judy.
Corcoran.
Yes.
Mr. Painter.
Yes. Item number 14.
Item 14 is also a recommendation of Thomas J. Eigel, County Administrator, to authorize myself, Tim Dick, Director of Department of Job and Family Services, to execute an Ohio Department of Job and Family Services Title IV Child Placement Agreement and addendum thereto, consisting of amendments number 1 through 4, by and between the County of Clermont, Ohio, and Children Having Options in Caring Environments, doing business as Choices, located in Dayton, Ohio 45439, for the provision of foster care services, placement with baby services, and independent living services for children referred by the Department of Job and Family Services and/or Clermont County Juvenile Court, or in their parent, guardian custody at the rate identified therein, effective January 1st, 2020 through December 31st, 2020, pursuant to and in compliance with the terms and conditions specified therein.
Heard the reading of item number 14. Do I have a motion for approval?
Make the motion.
I'll second that motion. Any further conversation or discussion? Roll call, Judy.
Mrs. Corcoran.
Yes.
Mr. Painter.
Yes. Item number 15.
Item 15 is also the recommendation of Thomas J. Eigel, County Administrator, to authorize Tim Dick, Director of Department of Job and Family Services, to execute an Ohio Department of Job and Family Services Title IV Child Placement Agreement and addendum thereto, consisting of amendments number 1 through 4, by and between the County of Clermont and Focus on Youth, located in Westchester, Ohio 45069, for the provision of foster care and placement with baby services for children referred by the Department of Job and Family Services and/or Clermont County Juvenile Court, or in their parent, guardian custody at the rates identified therein, effective January 1st, 2020 through December 31st, 2020, pursuant to and in compliance with the terms and conditions specified therein.
Heard the reading of item number 15. Do I have a motion for approval?
Make the motion.
I'll second that motion. Any further conversation or discussion? Roll call, Judy.
Mrs. Corcoran.
Yes.
Mr. Painter.
Yes. Thank you. Item number 16.
Brandon Hepner, Director of Information Systems Department, with the concurrence of Thomas J. Eigel, County Administrator, to adopt Resolution 183-19, resolving to determine that certain personal property is unneeded, obsolete, or unfit, no longer necessary for the county use as described in Exhibit A, attached thereto and made part thereof, and further resolving to authorize the Information Systems Department to discard the aforestated personal property, and that any software will be discarded by destruction of the property due to licensing and ownership restrictions relative thereto, pursuant to and in compliance with Section 307.12I of the Ohio Revised Code.
You've heard the reading of item number 16. Do I have a motion for approval?
Make the motion.
I'll second that motion. Any further conversation or discussion? Roll call, Judy.
Mrs. Corcoran.
Yes.
Mr. Painter.
Yes. Thank you. Item number 17.
Good morning, I'm Lyle Bloom, Director with the Water Resource Department, and item 17 is a recommendation to reject all bids received for bid item number 3, which is hydrofluosilicic acid, or fluoride, due to noncompliance with the terms and conditions of public bidding as set forth in sections 307.86 to 307.92 of the Ohio Revised Code, and to award the bids and execute the contracts for the furnishing and delivery of chemicals for the county waterworks system for bid items number 1, aluminum sulfate, and number 2, chlorine, number 4, caustic soda, and number 5, potassium permanganate, pursuant to the specifications to the following vendors as the lowest and best bids received on October 3rd, 2019, for a total estimated cost of $519,104.50, effective for a period of January 1st, 2020 through December 31st, 2020, pursuant to and in compliance with the terms and conditions set forth therein, and award of bid award of bids, therefore, and contingent upon the adoption of the annual appropriation for calendar year 2020 and issuance and receipt of the required purchase orders. So for the aluminum sulfate, the bidder is, the low bidder is Chemtrade Chemicals US out of Parsippany, New Jersey. For chlorine, it's JCI Jones Chemicals Incorporated out of Sarasota, Florida. For caustic soda, it's Bonded Chemicals Incorporated out of Columbus, Ohio. And for the potassium permanganate, it's Shannon Chemical Corporation out of Malvern, Pennsylvania.
And rejecting all those?
We're awarding and executing all of those. We're rejecting the one bid for the
Hydrophilic acid.
Yeah, okay.
fluoride. Yeah, so that's.
Just want to make
Um,
sure I knew.
That bid, the bidders were all well below 50,000, so we anticipate coming back just with a contract for services to the board.
Okay.
Hopefully the low bidder will actually maintain his bid price that he had bid. The issue was that the bid bond was not correct,
Okay.
and that was why we could not award based on that.
Okay. So he didn't execute a bid bond correctly.
Correct.
And all of these chemicals here are for the treatment of drinking water.
Correct.
Is that
There are
correct?
3 water treatment plants.
Yep. All right. You've heard the reading of item number 17. Do I have a motion for approval?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second that motion. Any further conversation or discussion? Roll call, Judy.
Corcoran.
Yes.
Painter.
Yes. Thanks, Lyle. Item number 18.
Morning. John
Morning.
Cascaden, Director, Department of Public Safety Services. Item number 18, upon my recommendation, with concurrence is Thomas J. Eigel, County Administrator, to accept the proposal for fire station alerting system for Clermont County, Ohio. Herefore submitted by Motorola Solutions, Inc., and received on June 27, 2019, and to authorize David L. Painter, President of the Board of County Commissioners, to execute communication system agreement and services agreement at cost not to exceed $350,000 as defined in Exhibit C2, Pricing and Summary and Equipment List, and which identifies Premier One CAD to locution interface maintenance, which is to be added to the Ohio Department of Administrative Services Maintenance and Support Agreement in the year 2 after 1-year warranty in the amount of $7,000, and provides for the optional pricing for agreement with Locution, not Motorola Solutions, for the Locution annual maintenance, gold support 24/7 in the amount of $9,578 in and as it relates thereto. Pursuant to the terms and conditions set forth therein and in compliance with Section 307.862 of the Ohio Revised Code, and contingent upon the release and receipt of a purchase order required therein, concert with requisition number 0005764-00, dated November 4th, 2019, relative thereto.
Heard the reading of item number 18. Do I have a motion for approval?
Make the motion.
I'll second that motion. Any further conversation or discussion? Tell us what this does, John.
This is a critical piece of software that we've been working to get for over a year now. What this does is it takes our fire and emergency medical services dispatch and it automates it. Currently, a dispatcher takes the call, they're putting the information in the CAD system, and more often than not, they're the same person that's dispatching that call. And when you dispatch fire or police services or fire or EMS services, there's tones involved because we have full-time departments, we have volunteer departments, there's a mix of the 13 departments. Some are full-time, some are not. So these tones go out, they go to a pager, they alert these individuals, they respond to the station, or if they're full-time, they get in their equipment and they leave. What this does, it does that portion for the dispatcher. In addition, there's a IP network associated with this. There's an app that goes to your smartphone, and by the time that first tone drops, the fire will already have that on their pager. They'll know exactly what they have and where they're going before this 45 seconds of tones completes. That is a great thing for when you have a fire or you have emergency, seconds count. And if we can pick up those extra 45 or 50 seconds, it's great. And also, in addition to that, it allows that dispatcher to concentrate on the person and the problem and not on those tones. And it will stack the tones. It'll do everything that the dispatcher does without any further interaction with the dispatcher. Once they hit that transmit key, they just go on to the next.
It's automatic.
It's automatic.
And does that also let them take another call if it comes
Yes.
in from another 911 source
Correct.
for that same?
Yes.
Okay,
It's basically like add an automated dispatcher.
okay.
So it's a long time coming. It's being used by several of the large agencies around us. They can't say enough things about it. They've seen an increase in their response times. The fire department can also add to the system at their cost. It can open their doors, turn on their lights. Everything in the firehouse can all be done from this system.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Anything further? Roll call, Judy.
Mrs. Corcoran.
Yes.
Mr. Painter.
Yes. Thanks, John. Item number 19.
Good morning.
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 Item number 19 is a recommendation of myself, Wade Grabowski, Director of Clermont County Facilities Management Department, with the concurrence of Mr. Thomas J. Eigel, County Administrator, to award the bid for the Clermont County Sheriff's Office roofing repair project pursuant to the specifications therefore to A.W. Farrell & Son out of Dunkirk, New York, for the sole bid received on 10/24/2019 in the amount of $397,360, and to execute the contract relative thereto with said services to be completed within 120 days of the contractor's receipt of a signed contract and notice to proceed from the Clermont County Facilities Management Department pursuant to and in compliance with the terms and conditions specified therein and the award of bid. This is also contingent upon the issuance and release of the required purchase order in concert with requisition number 5693.
For the reading of item number 19, do I have a motion for approval?
I'll make that motion.
And I'll second that. Any further conversation or discussion? I noticed we're having a roof put on over at the other facility right now, too.
911.
Yep.
Had some issues with some odors with the low pressure systems that we had. You know the hot tar, how it works. It permeates into the building, but they're working through it. So
Okay, good.
Thank
And
you.
then this will be the next one up?
this one actually will start as this one is ongoing. So the sheriffs will start. Hopefully we'll have scaffolding in there by Friday, and then we'll get a pre-construction meeting, by Friday, Monday, something like that. This company is well prepared, according to them, to start quickly.
Okay.
Great.
All right.
Thank you.
Anything further?
No, just glad it's
Roll
getting
call,
done.
Judy.
Mrs. Corcoran.
Yes.
Mr. Painter.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item number,
Good morning.
morning.
Ron Smith, Benefit Plan Coordinator for Clermont County. It is my recommendation, with the concurrence of Sandra Tahat, Human Resources Administrator, to authorize David L. Painter, President of the Board of County Commissioners, to execute the application for master group contract and the claims runout agreement by and between Clermont County, Ohio, and Dental Care Plus of Cincinnati, Ohio, for the provision of Dental Care Plus benefits for all eligible employees and their dependents through the Dental Care Plus plan, effective 1/1 of 2020 through 12/31 of 2021, pursuant to and in compliance with the terms and conditions set forth therein.
You've heard the reading of item number 20. Do I have a motion for approval?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second that motion. Any further conversation or discussion? Roll call, Judy.
Mrs. Corcoran.
Yes.
Mr. Painter.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Yvonne. Item 21.
Good morning, Craig Reisner, Clermont County Engineer's Office. Item 21 is a recommendation of Jeremy Evans, County Engineer, with concurrence of Thomas Eigel, County Administrator, to execute record plat number 6293185 for the replat of a lot the following subdivision in Miami Township. It's Dahl Park subdivision, replat of lot number 21, and the purpose is to create a public sanitary sewer easement.
You've heard the reading of item number 21. Do I have a motion for approval?
Make the motion.
I'll second that motion. Any further conversation or discussion? Roll call, Judy.
Mrs. Corcoran.
Yes.
Mr. Painter.
Yes. Item number 22.
Item 22 is a recommendation of Jeremy Evans, County Engineer, with the concurrence of Thomas Eigel, County Administrator, to execute record plat number 6293186 for the following subdivision located in Miami Township, and to further execute a performance and maintenance bond as well as a performance bond for sidewalks, a surety for same relative to the construction of below listed streets. It's Celestial Estates Subdivision Section 1. The performance bond is $24,000. The maintenance bond is $10,000. The performance bond for sidewalks is $28,880.
Board, you've heard the reading, item number 22. Do I have a motion for approval?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second that motion. Any further discussion? Roll call, Judy.
Corcoran.
Yes.
Painter.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 23. Morning.
Stephanie Ross with the Victim Advocate Program with the Clermont County Prosecutor's Office. On recommendation of D. Vincent Ferris, Prosecuting Attorney, with the concurrence of Thomas J. Eigel, County Administrator, to authorize David Painter, President of the Board of County Commissioners, to execute the 2019-2020 Victims of Crime and State Victims Assistance Act grant award and acceptance forms for the state grant numbers 2020 VOCA 132-921-396 and 2020 SVAA 132-921-399, respectively, as required for the Ohio Crime Victim Assistance Funds from the State of Ohio and Office of the Attorney General, Crime Victims Assistance and Prevention in Columbus, Ohio, for the continuation of the advocate programs to provide and extend victim advocate services to the Clermont County Court of Common Pleas, Municipal Court, and Juvenile Court, implemented by the prosecuting attorney in the amount of $134,841.74 with a required cash match of $33,710.43 to be provided from the 2019-2020 General Fund Appropriation for the prosecuting attorney for a total VOCA grant amount of $168,552.17 and an amount of $6,586 for the SVAA grant with no local cash match required for the period of 10/1 of 19 to 9/30 of 2020 in concert with the application approved by the Board of County Commissioners on 8/7 of 2019 and pursuant to and in compliance with the terms and conditions set forth therein.
You've heard the reading of item number 23. Do I have a motion for approval?
I'll make the motion.
And I'll provide a second. Any further conversation or discussion? Roll call, Judy.
Corcoran.
Yes.
Mr. Painter.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 24.
Good morning, Mary Raines from OMB. Item 24 is a request to increase the 2019 annual appropriations in general fund to the prosecutor's civil division in the amount of $10,000 and authorize the auditor to record it in the ledger. And this is in regards to an appointed counsel that you acted on last week.
Heard the reading of item number 24. Do I have a motion for approval?
I'll make the motion.
And I'll provide a second. Roll call, Judy.
Corcoran.
Yes.
Mr. Painter.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mary.
Thank you.
Item 25.
Item 25 is a recommendation to approve the request to extend the expiration date for the disposition of proposals received on May 30th, 2019. This is for the payments by financial transaction devices for Clermont County. This is from the close of business on Friday, November 22nd, 2019 to the close of business on Tuesday, December 31st, 2019. And this will provide additional time to finalize the contract documents. It's my understanding that the contract language has been approved. We're just waiting on the signed documents back from the vendor, Judy.
Yes, the original documentation.
Heard the reading item number 25. Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
I'll provide a second. Conversation or discussion? And this is for payments by financial transaction devices. Are we talking about?
Just those couple of contracts dealing with Munis and how those devices relate to Munis and interact with Munis.
Okay.
The rest of the contracts were executed. So
Okay.
actually we have a kickoff meeting tomorrow.
Yes,
the
we actually
agencies.
have 2 vendors.
Yeah.
And this will be the second vendor and to finalize it. And I would expect it to be before the board on or before the last meeting of the board's December meeting.
And is this for electronic payment? Is that what it's for?
Yes, just for those that interact with Munis. The other contract has been executed.
It's already been executed.
Yeah, and so we're ready
So
to go on those.
we should see in the near future some point of sale.
Yeah, I'll find out tomorrow. Yep.
Okay. And for those who haven't heard that discussion, one of the one of the challenges that was put forth this year was to try to bring the county to an electronic payment status. And that's something that I thought was very, very important as president this year, and I was joined by the other board members on that. And the reason being is because if any of you have children about my kids' age, you know that the only way that they make payments on anything is through a debit card. And they carry, one credit card or one debit card usually in the back of their phone. And if you don't have cash, and we were pretty much on a cash system here, and even myself, when I ran for this position, I was turned away because I didn't have the ability to produce $17 in cash. So that was something that, was near and dear to me, and they've worked on it hard, and believe me, it's been a difficult situation. There are way more variables than what I thought were there to make that really tough to do. But they've overcome it, and I appreciate that. Thanks for the hard work of anyone that was involved with that. So with that, roll call, Judy.
Mrs. Corcoran?
Yes.
Mr. Painter?
Yes. Tom, do we have any additions to the agenda?
We have two for the board's consideration. One is in the Department of Job and Family Services, and this is an estoppel certificate relating to the lease at 420 to 422 Ward's Corner Road. And the second add-on is a Emergency Management Agency sub-recipient grant agreement.
We've heard the discussion to add 2 items to the agenda. Do I have a motion to add those 2 items?
I'll make the motion.
I'll provide a second. Roll call, Judy.
Corcoran?
Yes.
Painter?
Yes. Tom, could you do the honors?
Sir?
Oh, Tim's going to do one.
Okay.
All right. The first add-on for your consideration is a recommendation of Alan Edwards, Assistant Prosecuting Attorney, with the concurrence of Thomas J. Eigel, County Administrator, to authorize David L. Painter, President of the Board of County Commissioners of Clermont County, Ohio, to execute an estoppel certificate as it relates to a lease by and between the Board of County Commissioners, Butler County, Ohio, on behalf of the Butler County Department of Job and Family Services, and the Board of County Commissioners, Clermont County, Ohio, on behalf of the Clermont County Department of Job and Family Services, entered into on July 1st, 2013, for the address of 420 to 422 Ward's Corner Road, Loveland, Ohio, 45140. What this is, Commissioners, is this is the Regional Training Center that the JFS is the administrative agency for. They are leasing from First Industrial at 420 Ward's Corner Road, and they are selling the property. So this estoppel certificate is a requirement under the original lease that both Butler County, when they were the administrative agent, and Clermont County, when we took over as the administrative agent, signed as part of the original lease. So it's just verifying all the contract and the amendments in the certificate that will be provided to the current landlord and the prospective landlord.
And in the prospective buyer, that gives them a guarantee of revenue that obviously is used to secure the loan on that facility.
Correct, yes.
Okay. You've heard the reading of the add-on. Do I have a motion for approval?
I'll make the motion.
And I'll second that motion. Any further discussion? Roll call, Judy.
Corcoran?
Yes.
Mr. Painter?
Yes. And the next one.
Ms. Haverkos.
Morning, Pam.
Good morning. Pam Haverkos, Clermont County Emergency Management Agency Director. This is in the recommendation of Pam Haverkos, Director of Clermont County Emergency Management Agency, with the concurrence of Thomas J. Eigel, County Administrator, to authorize the submittal of the supplemental amendment to the subrecipient grant agreement number 77600 for funding through the Ohio Emergency Management Agency, located in Columbus, Ohio, for the federal fiscal year 2018 Emergency Management Performance Grant Program from the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, with an increase in the federal amount of $7,500.79 for a total federal amount of $98,439.79. And an increase of the required local match of $7,500.79 for a total required local match of $98,439.79 to be provided by the general fund for an adjusted total program budget amount of $196,879.58 for the operation of the Clermont County Emergency Management Agency, effective for the performance period of October 1st of 2017 through June 30th of 2019, pursuant to the terms and conditions set forth therein and in compliance with the federal fiscal year 2018 Emergency Management Performance Grant. What has happened is we get an allotment of emergency management funds or emergency management performance grant funds to each county. And at the end of the grant period, which runs on the state fiscal cycle, they have funds that go unspent by other counties. They open it up to all the other counties to submit eligible expenses that we had incurred during that performance period that exceeded our award amount, and we can get supplemental funds. And so we had actually incurred an additional $20,000 worth of funds through June 30th of 2019. And so they looked at that award, or that those expenses, those eligible expenses, and they determined that we could get $7,500.79 back. So they took the excess funds and then divided it among all of the counties that had exceeded their allotment. And so this is just an opportunity for us to get those funds back. The overages that we have, because our grants overlap, just runs into the next the FY19 EMPG grant. So it's just an opportunity for us to get more money back to the county.
Okay. You've heard the reading of the add-on. Do I have a motion for approval?
I'll make the motion.
And I'll provide a second. Any further conversation or discussion? Pam, I would just ask that. I understand that this was kind of time critical. Is that?
Oh, yes, and I do apologize. We weren't given a deadline on when the notice of award had to be returned, so we submitted it through the process, and we were contacted this week, and they told us it had to be in before the end of November so that they could do their fiscal shutdown. So if we didn't submit the paperwork, the notice of award back by the November 29th, we were potentially going to lose those funds.
Right.
So I do apologize. I know it causes extra strain on the clerk of the board.
Thank you.
Understood. Thank you. Roll call, Judy.
Mrs. Corcoran?
Yes.
Mr. Painter?
Yes. Thank you. Anything further to add on?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Then I'll move from item G, which were additions to the agenda, to item H. I understand we are not going to have a executive session. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. So there will be no need for me to request for an executive session today. So I'll move on to item I. County staff elected official discussions. Any county staff or elected officials here with us today that would like to address the board or have a particular need to discuss a subject? Nope. Then I will move on to board member comments. Item number J. Commissioner Corcoran, anything that you needed to address here today
Not
as
just,
far as at the board?
only just the acknowledgement of when our next meeting will be.
Okay.
Since next week is Thanksgiving, and so people don't show up for turkey and we're not here.
As indicated last week, our next
Right.
session, and especially because of the annual county commissioners, county engineers winter conference starting on Wednesday, December 4th, will be on Tuesday, December 3rd at 3 p.m. before our 6 o'clock scheduled public hearing at Clermont Northeastern High School for the continuation of the Newtonsville wastewater improvements.
Thank you, Judy.
And before I ask to adjourn the meeting, I will make some member comments. One of the things I wanted to say is thanks to all the people who have come and have talked about the canine services here and the animal services in Clermont County. We appreciate your comments. We understand that. I can only speak as one person of the board here. It's not my intention to not have great services for animals here in Clermont County. It is not our intention not to have a good contract. We believe that the current contract holder has done an excellent job. You know, sometimes these things come down to a business relationship and a contract. So I just want to make sure that you know that we consider your comments and that we're trying to work from this side to, you know, make an equitable situation so that we can move forward as Clermont County. The last thing that I would ever want is for animals to be hurt in this county, and I totally understand that. So I thank you for your comments. And with that, I would ask for a motion to adjourn the meeting. And I'll second that. Roll call, Judy?
Corcoran?
Thank
Mr. Painter?
Yes. Our meeting stands in adjournment on November the 20th, 2019. Thanks so much for being a part of the meeting, and if you're watching this on the cable channel, thanks for watching, and we'll see you at the next meeting. Thanks so much.